Pleased to have with us a player who's been a revelation for the Vancouver Canucks this season, the pride of Roubaix, France, although Roubaisian by birth only, right? Because you left there at 6 months.
Yeah, well, I still have some family there, but we moved a lot, quite a few times.
But that city in northern France, and listen to me with my Roubaisian like I know where it is, but here it is. It's a city in northern France on the Belgian border. Your road to the NHL was one less traveled, not just because of the rarity of players from France making it to the league, but also because of the perseverance you showed after you were not drafted. We're going to get to all that in a moment, but first to current events. Louis.
Well, you just said to me, pretty crazy game. That was a wild one for you guys tonight. You guys bent but didn't break. That was a big win for you guys.
That was awesome. I mean, like we try to, we're in the chase right now, and we want to get as many points as we can. And sometimes they had to be ugly or not perfect. We played 2 great games on the road, and like we couldn't get like as many points as we wanted. And tonight we come back and we just found a couple good bounces.
Yep.
Antoine, you've made a real impact with the Canucks. Now let's discuss your style, your game. With Dallas, you averaged about 9 fights a year. You were generally the team's most penalized player. You were very popular in Dallas, but pretty much not outside the city. What did you think when you were often called the league's biggest agitator and sometimes the league's most hated player?
Well, I take some pride into that. I mean, it's my style. I gotta. It's just what's make me different from everybody else. Like, you know, there's so many picks, or like 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, and it's funny. I have that talk with my agent a couple of times, and he told me in my draft he had like 6-7 players get drafted, but I'm the only one who played full time, and then it's kind of. It makes me different from everybody else.
You have beaten the odds, there's no question about that. This question comes via Twitter. It's from David Rogers. Who was another agitator that you admired when you first entered the NHL?
Well, that one is really easy to answer for me. Like, it's a mentor for me. Alex Burrows was like really nice to me. Took me under his wing, even though I wasn't playing for the Canucks at the time, and we trained together in the summer. And well, he showed me the way, showed me the ropes.
Signed a nice 4-year deal with the Canucks in the summer, but this is not your first stop here. You were here for training camp in 2011, got in a few preseason games, and distinguished yourself in a few scraps, one with the much larger Doug Murray of San Jose, which we're going to see here in a moment. But the Canucks sweater was the first one you wore in the NHL, and they let you get away by cutting you. It's a touch ironic, I guess, that you're back here in a prominent role now. So this tweet is from Uncle Nick or Nish, I'm not sure how you say it, but how does it feel to have come full circle with the Canucks in your career?
Feels really nice. Like when I left the organization, like once again, I'm going to bring up my agent, but I really wanted to stay, and that didn't happen. And coming back here, a city that I knew, like there's a lot of people that when I came to training camp that were still in the organization, and that was an easy choice. And it's a team that have a lot of promise. And when you sign somewhere, you look at their depth, and you look at the guys that are coming up, and I not scouted, but I looked at Peterson a little bit in the World Championship, and he was just a great player, and I want to be a part of the next generation here.
4 years with Chicoutimi. Your draft year was 2008. The draft was in Ottawa. That was the Steve Stamkos, Drew Doughty draft. You didn't go the first day, but because you lived in Montreal, yeah, you drove to Ottawa thinking there was a chance that you could be a late round pick. Tell us what happened.
Well, nothing happened, but that's fine. Sometimes you need those bumps in the road, like to forge a character. It can be easy all the time, and for me, it wasn't particularly easy. But still, I had like a chance to go to a training camp in Columbus. I was invited by them, and that was the first step, like in my road, like to learn about the NHL, see how it is. And then I came to Vancouver, and another step, I played a couple games, and then another step. So I saw it by like couple steps instead of like looking at the NHL right away. I needed to play in the AHL, play there, then like dominate there in my role, and then that's what's going to bring me to the NHL, and that's how I saw it.
You stand as an example of what Don Cherry has always said: do not go to the draft unless you're absolutely certain you're going to be picked. So that was a tough day.
I guess I didn't get that call.
Yeah, perhaps you hadn't heard it. After Chicoutimi, a year in the AHL, the East Coast League, and then Chicago, of the AHL after that. And Louis, you wanted to pick up on that.
Well, I do, and you said the AHL is where you honed your skill, and under a guy that I'm familiar with, Craig McTavish, and he told me at one time a few years ago that you were relentless in wanting to get better, and that was what drove you to the NHL. He loved that aspect of your game. You wanted to get better each and every day, and yet you would ask him, what do I have to do to get better to get to the next level? Well, you finally made it, but that was a big stepping stone for you.
Yeah, really. Like sometimes you gotta force the next step, what's coming, and like by asking, sometimes you get good answers, sometimes you don't get the answer you like, but you gotta be able to handle it. And Craig was really nice to me. Didn't start me like playing me right away. And then I had to earn his trust, earn my ice time, and by the end of the year, I was playing almost full time.
So after Chicago, Dallas finds you, and maybe, Antoine, it was fate that you'd end up in Dallas because of this picture that we have. You sent it out on social media years ago. Here you are as a kid in Paris wearing a Dallas Star sweater. What's the story behind this picture?
I don't know. Like as a kid, like growing up, like we didn't have that much like TV, or we didn't have like social media to follow up the league, and like the Stars were like my team. Like from like I liked them, and it was awesome, and like being like going in Dallas was really fun.
In France, they became aware that you were making a name for yourself in the NHL, so they dispatched a documentary crew from the TV show Interior Sport, did a story on you. Here is the rather staged opening to that documentary.
Clint Eastwood.
Well, we had a great time turning this. Like we went in the back country. It was awesome.
I'm surprised they didn't.
I got them all, eh?
Yeah, you shot them all down.
Didn't miss one.
Undoubtedly on the first attempt. I'm surprised they didn't get you to ride a bull or rope a calf here. Anyway, that looked pretty good. All right, here's a tweet from Tim Bozon.
Oh,
and you know who that is?
I know exactly who that is.
Sent this today. Hey, Rouse, how's life in Van City? And how do you like playing for a Canadian franchise? Hope to see you soon with the team. And he's talking about the French national team.
That's a great. Tim's a great guy, and like we met in the World Championship a couple times, and to me, like I said, Vancouver was a great choice, and I love being here, and playing for a Canadian market was like it was a must for me. Like I really wanted to be here and like experience like the Canadian market, like see what it's like,
okay.
And I love it so far.
We should fill people in on Tim Bozon. He played junior in Kootenay, contracted meningitis, and recovered and came back to play the game. I think he's in the Swiss League right now. He was in the Montreal system for a while. But our theme for Hockey Day in Canada is courage, and he certainly showed a lot of it to come back and play after something like that. Louis, Travis Green had some interesting things to say this morning.
Well, you know, after your time in Dallas, you were a free agent, and Travis Green told us this morning that you were the #1 guy that they wanted to target for him to bring into the organization. Your style of play, well, that's some pretty high praise from your head coach on how badly they wanted you to be a part of this team and what you bring.
Absolutely. Like to me, like I talked to a couple teams, and you know, like when you have the head coach calling you and like saying, hey, like we really want you, and to me that was like another stepping stone, like going like, okay, like this place really wants me for who I am, not like somebody else, and I was really excited.
Yeah.
Roussel is not a common NHL name. There was one other who played in the league, Dominic, and he was a goaltender, Philadelphia, Anaheim. I think he
Did
finished.
you guys mess it up tonight?
2000. What? No, we didn't get it wrong tonight. Although I got to think for
anyway.
I got to
You
think
might
for a
have,
split
but no.
second before I say your name. How often are you called Dominic?
Well, in NBC, like always call me Dominic for some reason. 7 years in the league, I still can't figure why. But you guys are great. You're doing a great job. Congrats.
Jason Bro is one of the more learned members of the Vancouver media, so we're going to leave it to him to ask the tough question here. How is your cat adjusting to Vancouver?
Oh, he's getting fatter. Poor guy. He's staying more inside, and he's missing his girlfriend back in Dallas. He was heartbroken leaving Dallas. Yeah,
There he is.
See him, and he's a great cat.
I
Love
think
him.
Manu is the only cat in the NHL with a Twitter account, right?
Well, Minu the cat, which I don't handle. Somebody, a fan, like came up with, and yeah, I have no more explanation to that.
I mentioned at the outset your family moved when you were an infant from Roubaix to Paris. Legend has it that your mother first enrolled you to play rugby, but but you were booted off the team because you kept leaving the pitch to get water. True.
True.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was the only coach who didn't like me, I think. And he came up, it's like, told my mom, this guy gotta leave. And that's what happened.
Here's a couple of pictures that suggest you may have been more interested in Game of Thrones, perhaps, than organized sport. So your mother decided to get you into a sport played in cooler temperatures, and that was hockey. You became a standout, part of France's national team program, and here's how you introduced yourself as a kid.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Antoine Roussel, j'ai 15 ans, je suis en sport-études à Rouen. Et le hockey, c'est ma passion.
Scoring goals is my passion, as it is at one time or another for every
Well, the
hockey player.
tradition's not really accurate.
Oh,
but
what did you say?
I say like playing hockey is my passion, but
Your
passion,
right?
sorry.
Yeah. So at age 15, your family up and moved to Quebec from Paris, France. Was it to find you a higher level of competition?
No, my parents, well, we talk about courage, and that makes me think of my parents sometimes, like the way they had the courage to leave France and go out there into a new country, knew everything, and like my success come from them, like obviously, but it wasn't like really like a hockey related move. They just wanted to have a new life.
So you quickly learned the level of competition in Quebec was about 9 levels higher than it was in Paris, France. How many teams were you cut from your first year in Canada at age 15?
2 teams, I think. But that was enough. I told my mom once, like, hey, after the second team I got caught, we're going back in France, like where I was a big fish. Now I'm a small fish, and I didn't like that. But it's another like bad experience that turned into a good experience for me. I was able to learn the ropes and being out there. Like I was lucky I could practice every day. My neighbor had an outdoor backyard rink. It was awesome. For a kid from France, never seen that. I was like, I was telling my mom I was doing my homework, which wasn't true. And I was on the ice all the time, and I had a buddy, my first friend in Canada. He was 9 years old, and I was 15 at the time, and we were used to go play every day for 2 hours, and that was great for me.
The next year was different. You started with Collage Charles Lemoyne in Longueuil, but it took only 12 games for Chicoutimi to call you up, so you played there for 4 years. Obviously, you caught up. We've come all this way without talking about your family. You and Alexandra have 2 children, Theodore and Raphael.
And Minou.
And Mio, yeah, your cat, right. Let's not forget Mio, the cat, the only
He's
cat
not
in
on
the
the
NHL
picture, though.
with his own Twitter account. So Theodore's 2, Raphael, your daughter, is 13 months old, and man, you went through a lot this past summer. You had a concussion that kept you out of training camp, and more importantly, there was Raphael's health. Tell us the story.
Well, she had like since birth she had like something with her skull, and that wasn't that's something that concerned us, and she came like with her sutures on her brain like already so when we were in Dallas, like one doctor like he was one of the best in the world, and then he said like, yeah, you guys should like do the surgery and everything, and I feel like we're blessed, like everything went fine with her surgery, and it wasn't an easy time moving into a new city, concussion, and my daughter like obviously was our main concern, and well, she's just a happy kid. Like took 3 days, and she had
3 days after the surgery?
After that, like she was all swollen. Her eyes were shut for 2 days, and the third days I was coming back for practice, and like the second I was leaving the hospital or on my way to, she opened her eyes, and like you could see the joy in her eyes, like, yeah, I'm happy, like everything's done, and talk about courage, and to me, like she's one of those, and as a hockey player, sometimes like people think like we're really courageous, like we go through a lot, but like she's one like that went through a lot, or the kids like we go see with the Canucks Foundation, which, by the way, I think they do a great job in Vancouver. They show a lot of courage, the parents, what they're going through, and I'm thinking about them a lot.
Well, your child's healthy. There's no more inspiration required than that. Antoine, thank you so much for your time. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
Antoine Roussel, our guest on After Hours, back to conclude the proceedings at Rogers Arena in a moment.
Done already, guys?